Welcome back to the Strato-Cloud podcast. I'm Thiru, co-founder at Strato-Cloud, and today we are talking about something that every engineering and security team deals with, but nobody really enjoys it: compliance auditing. So we have Dan, founding principal engineer from Strato-Cloud, uh, who just shipped an AI-powered compliance feature. Dan, welcome.
Hey, thanks, there. Yeah, happy to be here.
So let's start with the basics. What did we actually build?
Okay, well, we built an automated compliance auditing system that sits inside the Strato-Cloud platform. You pick a cloud environment, AWS, Azure, or GCP. You pick a compliance framework and you hit Run Audit. And within a few minutes, you get a full compliance report with control IDs, findings, impact assessments, and specific remediation steps. No consultants, no spreadsheets, no 6-week engagement. You just have it.
Nice. Which frameworks are supported right now?
So we started with six, the CIS benchmark 6.0, 6.0, the PCI DSS 4.0, HIPAA, GDPR, SOC 2, and ISO 27001. And those cover the vast majority of what our customers are currently asking for. CIS alone has over 100 individual controls mapped to specific cloud security checks, things like CloudTrail, multi-region enabled, S3 bucket encryption, IAM MFA enforcement, RDS encryption at rest, Lambda function configuration checks. Every control in the framework is mapped to a concrete checkable item.
Very nice. But there are a lot of frameworks to cover. How does the system actually work under the hood?
Okay, well, there are three main pieces. The first is a compliance knowledge base. We built this on AWS Bedrock with vector embeddings. For each framework, CIS, PCI, HIPAA, et cetera, we ingest detailed JSON documents with full control IDs, descriptions, and map security checks. These documents are chunked, embedded, and stored so the AI can retrieve them can retrieve exactly the right controls when you run an audit. The second piece is what we call the compliance auditor. It's an AI agent. We actually have three of them, one for each cloud provider, that knows how to query the knowledge base and assess your environment against the controls. It uses anthropic models, and it uses retrieval augmented approach, meaning it only uses content retrieved from the knowledge base. It doesn't hallucinate framework requirements. If a control isn't in the knowledge base, it doesn't make one up. The third piece is the cloud operator integration. When you run an audit against a specific environment, the system first retrieves the relevant benchmark controls, then it queries your actual cloud environment to get its current security posture, and then assesses the real state against those controls. So you're not getting a generic checklist, you're getting an assessment of your actual infrastructure at the moment.
That three-step workflow is interesting. Why not just do it all in one pass?
Accuracy. If you give an AI model a vague prompt like check my AWS account for CIS compliance, you get a vague answer. By separating knowledge retrieval from the environment assessment, we ensure that the controls being checked are real documented controls with real control IDs. The auditor first retrieves the benchmark. Here are the controls for CIS 6.0 on AWS. And then separately, we pull the actual state of the environment. Here's what CloudTrail looks like. Here's your S3 configuration. Here's your IAM setup. The auditor compares the two, and each step is verifiable.
What does the output actually look like?
It's a structured report in the UI. It starts with an assessment summary, what standard you're auditing against, what environment, the overall posture, and then it breaks down into priority tiers. Critical security findings come first. These are things like MFA not enabled on the root account or CloudTrail logging disabled. Each finding has the control ID from the framework, the control name, what was found, the impact if it's not remediated, the specific remediation steps. Then you get high priority, medium priority findings in the same format. At the bottom, there's a compliance status summary showing which areas are compliant and which aren't, and a numbered list of the immediate recommendations.
So it's not just a pass fail. You're getting actionable remediations.
Exactly. A lot of compliance tools will tell you you failed control 2.1.1 and leave you to figure out what that means. We tell you the control, what we found, why it matters, and what to do about it. Security teams can hand the report directly to the infrastructure team, and they know exactly what to fix.
Let's talk about the multi-cloud angle. You mentioned AWS, Azure, and GCP. Most compliance tools are single cloud. What is different here?
Strato-Cloud has always been a multi-cloud platform. We already have connectors and environment management across all three providers. The compliance feature leverages that same infrastructure. You might have 50 AWS accounts, 20 Azure subscriptions, and 10 GCP projects. You can run audits across all of them and from one interface against the same framework and compare the results. That's the real value, unified compliance visibility across your entire cloud footprint. And the auditors are platform aware. The AWS auditor knows about CloudTrail, S3 bucket policies, IAM, RDS, Lambda, and Redshift. The Azure auditor understands Azure Compliance Center and its specific security primitives. The GCP auditor maps to GCP's operations and security tooling. Same framework, different platform-specific implementations. We support AWS now. Other cloud platforms will be supported soon.
So where does Badgely fit into all of this?
So Badgely is our AI assistant, a honey badger by nature, a multi-cloud security expert by trade. The compliance auditors are tools that Badgely orchestrates. You can interact with Badgely conversationally, ask it, run a PCI audit on my production AWS account, or what does CIS say about encryption at rest? And Badgely routes that to the right compliance auditor with the right parameters. It handles the workflow, retrieve the benchmark, query the environment, generate the report. You can also use the dedicated compliance page in the UI if you prefer a more structured flow.
How are you handling the knowledge base accuracy problem? Compliance frameworks change and evolve. PCI 4.0, for instance, is different than 3.2.1. CIS releases new versions regularly.
Right. So the compliance data files are JSON documents. Each framework is a separate structured file. When a framework updates, we update the JSON and the knowledge base reindexes. The vector embeddings are regenerated. We use fixed size chunking with overlap to make sure the retrieval is accurate even across section boundaries. And because the auditor is strictly constrained to only use retrieved content from the knowledge base, updating the framework data is all you need to do. And I say all you need to do, it's what we do. You don't retrain a model, you don't change prompts, you don't update authoritative data source and the system reflects it immediately.
So, what about false positives? Compliance auditing is notorious for noisy results.
Two things help here. First, we're checking actual environment state, not running a static scanner against the policy template. If your CloudTrail is configured correctly, the auditor sees that and marks the control as compliant. It's not guessing based on heuristics. Second, the three-step separation I mentioned earlier helps because the benchmark retrieval is separate from the assessment. We can validate that the controls being checked are real. If the knowledge base doesn't have a control for a specific check, the auditor doesn't fabricate one. The prompt engineering is explicit about this. Use only retrieved content, never generate framework requirements. That said, AI generated reports should be reviewed by qualified compliance professionals. We're augmenting the compliance process, not replacing human judgment.
Fair point. Who is the target user for all of this?
Three personas. First, the security or compliance team that needs to run audits regularly, quarterly, monthly, or before a customer assessment. This saves them weeks of manual work. Second, the platform engineering team that manages the cloud infrastructure and needs to know what to fix. The remediation steps in the report are written for them. Third, the CISO or VP of engineering who needs a compliance posture overview across all environments without digging into each individual account's details.
Last question. What is next for compliance in Strato-Cloud?
A few things. We're working on scheduled audits, the ability to set up reoccurring compliance runs to automatically flag regressions. If you were compliant last month and something changed, you should know immediately, not at the next quarterly review. We're also working on drift detection tied to compliance. If a Terraform change introduces a non-compliant configuration, we want to catch that before it hits production. And we're expanding the framework library based on customer demand.
Dan, this has been great. Thanks for walking us through it.
Thanks, Thero. Appreciate the time.
So that's it for Strato-Cloud Podcast Episode 3. If you want to learn more about Strato-Cloud's compliance features, uh, book a demo from our website at strato-cloud.io. See you next time.